The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with you all. We're continuing our study of the book of Job. We're going to take a look at chapter 20 and chapter 21. This is the end of the second cycle of three friends, three comforters who come to Job. They each have three speeches. This is the second group of speeches that we're finishing up, and we'll just kind of dig right in. Then Zophar, the Naamathite, answered and said, "Therefore my thoughts answer me, because of my haste within me. I hear censure that insults me, and out of my understanding a spirit answers me." Effectively, right, here's his introduction. I've been insulted. I've been provoked to speak. There's a wisdom that provokes me. So it's not just only the insult, I think, but it's also kind of the understanding, the spirit of understanding that he has there in that last verse. I need to speak. And so now we're going to kind of listen in. What is he going to say? This is really kind of his thesis, I think, of these next two verses. "Do you not know that from of old, since man was placed on earth, that the exalting of the wicked is short, and the joy of the godless is but for a moment?" Right there is his thesis. I mean, and again, right, this is, since man has been put on the face of the earth, this is kind of woven deep within the fabric of the universe. This is how God does things. You know, take note. The wicked might prosper for a few seconds, for a few moments. It might seem like they've got things under control, but their time of rejoicing is very short. Their time of joy, and then for the godless, the time of joy is but for a moment. And now, right, that's his thesis. That's what and for the rest of what we're going to discuss here in this, at least in this chapter, is basically his explanation, his examples that he's going to use for this. So we begin here right away. I'm looking at verse 6. Though his height mount up to the heavens, and his head reach to the clouds, he will perish forever, like his own dung. Those who have seen him will say, where is he? He flies away like a dream and not be found. He will be chased away like a vision of the night. The eye that saw him will see him no more, nor will his place any more behold him. His children will seek the favor of the poor, and his hands will give back to the wealthy. His bones are full of his youthful vigor, but it will lie down with him in the dust. And in some ways, I almost kind of think of this as, and I think the next chapter we're going to kind of have maybe a little bit of a reference to those of aristocratic authority and the landed gentry of sorts. And I think kind of maybe there's a little something of this here, and I think there is within this, right? It would seem as though he's speaking in a much more kind of he's trying to express a wisdom that doesn't have a particular object, but there is something maybe of an insult here to Job underneath this, right? You once rose up to great prominence. You were an extraordinarily important person. You're extraordinarily wealthy, and which kind of goes with this, right? The high, though his height mount up to the heavens and his head reach the clouds. The other thing I was going to kind of throw in there is I think maybe sometimes with the kings of the ancient world, and there was this understanding, they kind of projected themselves or implied that they themselves were gods. And so maybe this sort of idea that he reaches up to the clouds is an implication that they thought they were like God themselves. They were so important. But then what happens? He perishes forever, like his, right, there's a pretty graphic image here, like his own dung, right, like his own bowel movement. It is on the ground and it is rotting in the sun. That's what becomes of those who think of themselves as being so important, those who have been lifted up. It seems for a moment, for a few seconds, that he is so important and so powerful, and nothing can tear him down, this evil man, this ungodly man. But what does he become? He becomes like poop. For he flies away like a dream and is not found. He is chased away like a vision of the night, right? You have a dream. It seems so dramatic in the moment that you're dreaming something. If you wake up, you look around, you realize you're in your own bedroom. You realize none of the things that have happened in that dream have taken place. They're inconsequential, and you go on with the rest of your life. The eyes that saw him will see him no more, nor will his place any more behold him. His children will see, so he'll be forgotten. right? He'll be, I thought there was even kind of even implication of, back in verse 7 where it says, where is he? It's almost kind of a mocking sort of way of saying, oh, look, he's gone. Where is he? His authority, the way he ruled over us, the way he terrified us. And especially if you think of an aristocrat or a king or even a man who is so rich, who has a great estate and many, many, many servants and slaves that are under him. Now that he's gone, he's gone. Where is he? He's nothing. He's not a threat to us anymore. The last part here about his children will seek favor of the poor, which is, I think, to say the wealth that he has accumulated, the things that he thought were long lasting, by the time he is dead, this is going to, kind of maybe hold this little bit in your mind too, because Job's going to pick up on this theme as well. In a couple of different ways. His children, once he's dead, even though he thought he had accumulated such great wealth, multi-generationals worth of power and wealth, that there should be a dynasty after his death, but really what happens, his own children are out begging from the poor, and in some ways it's kind of the implication there, and I think we'll see this a little bit as we go further in this chapter. The implication is too there that it's the poor that he himself once robbed are now the same poor that his children come back to beg from. So his children seek the favor of the poor, and his hands will give back the wealth, right? The things that he had stolen, they're going back to the original owners. His bones are full of his youthful vigor, but then what happens in the end? And Job's going to pick up on this in chapter 21 as well, right? He's going to die. Of course, Job's going to pick up on the theme that everybody's going to die. Though, and as we continue here in verse 12, though evil is sweet in his mouth, though he hides it under his tongue, though he is loath to let it go and holds it in his mouth, yet his food turns in his stomach. It is the venom the venom of cobras within him. He swallows down riches and vomits them up again. God casts them out of his belly. He will suck the poison of cobras. The tongue of a viper will kill him. He will not look upon the river, the streams flowing with honey and curd. He will give back the fruits of his toil and will not swallow it down. For the profit of his trade he will not enjoy. For he has crushed and abandoned the poor. He has seized the house that he did not build. I think the idea there with the poison that's in his mouth and under his tongue, right? He loves the sweet taste of doing this evil, the sweet taste of sin. He will not give it up, but what does that sin do? Sin will cause him to, and I think there's kind of maybe two things going on here. The sin under his mouth, but it's also particularly the robbery of the thieving, or kind of as we end there. Crushed and abandoned the poor, seized the house that he himself did not build, right? He has swallowed all of these things, right? He has robbed the poor, he has stolen from everyone. He holds in his mouth because it feels it is so sweet, it is so delicious, the evil that he has done. But the reality is that evil he has swallowed is itself like the venom of like poison, like the venom of a cobra. It gets into his stomach. He's gonna vomit. He's gonna die. Right? These kind of some of the things. Even kind of already implied back there when we talked about his children and the hand gives back the wealth. Verse 18, he will give back the fruit of his toil. He will not swallow it down, right? The things that he thought he had taken, it's all going back, right? Again, the implication is here too that his children, there will not be a legacy of his wealth that he has accumulated. It's all going back to those from who, the profit of his trade, he will not enjoy, right? There's no joy. He's stolen all of these things. The house that he lives in, the tent he lives in, is not his own. He has stolen that itself. He did not build it up. He will not look upon the river, the stream flowing with honey and right. I mean, isn't that prosperity, especially in that Old Testament sort of language, right? When Israel is going to go to the Promised Land, it is a land of milk and honey. It is, the curd, of course, is a byproduct of the milk. The early stages of the making of cheese. So the land of milk and honey, he will not look upon. I mean, even the rivers, the streams flowing with milk and honey, he will not see that prosperity himself. But because he knew no contentment in his belly, he will not let anything in it in which he delights escape him. These were nothing left after he had eaten. Therefore his prosperity will not endure. In the fullness of his sufficiency, he will not be distressed. The hand of everyone in misery will come out against him. To fill his belly to the full, God will send his burning anger against him and rain upon him into his body. He will flee from the iron weapon, the bronze arrow which strikes him through. It is drawn forth and comes out of his body. The glittering point comes out in his gallbladder. Terror comes upon him. Utter darkness is laid up for his treasures. A fire not fanned will devour him. What is left in his tent will be consumed. I kind of like that idea right there at the very beginning. He knows no contentment in his belly, right? I mean, think of all the things the evildoer has consumed, the things he's robbed from other people, but he's never satisfied, right? What's the opposite of what the illustration he's giving here, right? The righteous man gets an honest day work for an honest wage, and his home is filled with his children, and he finds joy. I mean, it's almost like you could say he finds joy in the simple things of life, right? He is content. He rejoices in the good things that God has given him. He's content, right? I mean, there's happiness in being content with what you have. This almost kind of goes into the ninth and 10th commandment about coveting, right? The one who is coveting is always looking at what somebody else has. His heart is never satisfied with the good things that God has had, which is kind of the contrast to, of course, the first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall fear, love, and trust in God above all things. The righteous man, the beginning of wisdom, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, loving and trusting God for all the good that he would provide. But the one who is coveting, the one who is not content, is always seeing something else that he wants, right? This is the Aesop's tale of the dog who's got a bone, and he sees a reflection of the dog with the bone, and he barks and he loses his bone. That's exactly what's happening here in this illustration, right? He's not content. He consumes everything. It never fills him up. He's never satisfied. But then what happens? The hands of everyone in misery will come against him. People will strike back against him. And not only the people, but God will strike back. Burning anger raining down upon his body. There's a great illustration right there. You just see anger falling from heaven, consuming him and destroying him in his life. And he picks up on the same language we heard Job speak in the previous chapter 19, about how he feels like God is coming against him like an army. He's being, the ramparts are being, seized, or he's being attacked from all sides as he goes. But this is the same illustration his, right? He will flee from the iron weapon. A bronze arrow will strike him through. It draws forth and comes out of his body. The glittering point goes through his gallbladder, right? This is extraordinary pain. Terror comes upon him. So the same image of a besieged city, right? And this is what it's like to be the evil man. Utter darkness is laid up as, right? All of the things that he has, it's destroyed by fire. And then we get kind of verse 28, 29 here. We kind of get this illustration, I think, that draws upon Job's idea of a lawsuit against God. That he's kind of like, he's calling on God to give answer, almost like in a very kind of a lawsuit sort of language we've seen throughout the book from the beginning of the friends coming to Job. His cries for, God must answer me. Why has this happened? And he's kind of, he says, the heavens will reveal his iniquity, the earth will rise up against him. Throughout the Old Testament, God, Yahweh, calls upon witnesses. When he puts Israel on trial, he calls upon witnesses of their sins, and they're kind of natural witnesses. I was kind of thinking about this. Even it could go back all the way to Cain and Abel, right? Abel's blood is crying out from the earth, right? There's kind of these things that we would not associate with having a voice or having being living things, are witnesses to crimes and to sins. And so when God often, like in Isaiah, I think Hosea also kind of uses the same language, many other places, Jeremiah, I imagine as well. This sort of like when God puts Israel on trial, the witnesses of their sins is the earth, it's the sky, it's the heavens, right? They have witnessed what has happened. The possession of his house will be carried away, dragged off in the day of God's wrath. And then, kind of a restate. The very last verse here then is a restatement, I think, of the thesis that we've had already. This is the wicked man's portion from God, the heritage decreed for him by God, right? This is what's going to happen for anybody for the unrighteous, for the man who does not fear the Lord his God. His life will be short. He might have some success. He might fill his mouth with the sweetness of sin, but it's going to vomit out of him, and it's not going to take long for that to happen. Then we come to Job's reply. We hear from Zophar. Then Job answers. This is for chapter 21. Then Job answered and said, "Keep listening to my words, and let this be your comfort. Bear with me, and I will speak, and after I have spoken, mock on. As for me, is my complaint against man? Why should I not be and why should I not be impatient? Look at me and be appalled, and lay your hand over my mouth. When I remember, I am dismayed, and shuddering seizes my flesh." So Job is right, calling again. Actually, it's kind of almost a mocking. Like, I'm going to talk, I'm going to speak the truth, but I realize you're not going to believe me, you're not going to listen to me, but I'm still going to speak the truth. Listen to my words, and let this be your comfort. Right? They're supposed to be comforting him, but now he's there's an irony here, right? There's an insult. Job has multiple times already reminded them, like, what kind of comforters are you? You're supposed to be my friends. You're supposed to be here in the midst of my misery, and what are you doing? You're accusing me of sin. You're saying it's your fault that you're suffering. You're not comforting. So let this be your comfort, almost in a mocking way. Bear with me as I speak, right? And then go ahead and mock again, right? Listen to my statement, and then, right, go ahead and mock on. As for me, this is my complaint again. My complaint is against man, right? It's not, or is my complaint against man? No, it's not. My complaint is against God. And why shouldn't I? I mean, I think I kind of would almost translate this as, not why should I not be impatient? Why shouldn't I be impatient? I have good reason. Look at my suffering, and it really kind of calls upon them. Look at me and be appalled, right? We've kind of had that implication too in Job's speeches previously, that his friends won't even look him in the eye, right? He just looks disgusting. They can't even look directly at him in the midst of his suffering, right? But now he's calling him again too. Look at me and be appalled. Put your hands over your mouth. Maybe it was like, it smells so bad, right? That's all these. The whole implication here is of how disgusting it is. And even when I see myself, I shudder. My own flesh shudders when I think about the disgustingness of myself in that sort. Picking up here again. So he's made his plan. This is, all right, we kind of had the same thing with Zophar, right? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to speak. Listen to me. Same sort of statement. Why do the wicked live, reach old age, and grow mighty in power? Their offspring are established in the present, and their descendants before their eyes. Their houses are safe from fear, and no rod of God is upon them. Their bulls breeds without fail. The cow calves and does not miscarry. They send out their little boys like a flock, and their children dance. They sing to the tambourine and the lyre, and rejoice in the sound of the pipes. They spend their days in prosperity, and in peace they go down to Sheol. They say to God, depart from us. Why do you desire the knowledge of your ways? Why is the Almighty what is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit do we get if we pray to him? Behold, it is not their prosperity in their hands. The counsel of the wicked is far from me. Job's really kind of his argument here is the complete opposite of what we heard from Zophar. Zophar says, look at the wicked. They live a short period and then they die. Job is saying, no, look at the wicked. They succeed. This sort of idea that, oh, those who sin, they're going to be punished, right? Which really, Job, however many millenniums later that we live, right? You see that in your own life. You see, whether in persons or people that you just kind of see in the public eye, people who do horrible, wicked, terrible things, and they get away with it. They succeed. There's no this is the Friends kind of had this theology retribution, right? And Zothar's first statements there are very clear, kind of right. The godless will prosper for a moment, but they will fail. But Job is saying, look, I've seen many wicked people, and even kind of, I'll highlight some of the other parts, but even to go all the way back down to the beginning, right? Even those who say, they say to God, depart from us, right? Get away. I don't want anything of God. I'm not praying to God. Get away from me. What is the Almighty that we should serve Him? What profit is it for us to pray? Their experience is not that that the pious and the God-fearing and those who are in worship and those who are daily calling upon the name of the Lord to protect them from all evil are going to succeed and prosper and have all the success in the world. And those who do not, right? Like I said, you've seen this. Life's not that cut and dry, is it? It's not as though, and often, and I think this really is Job's explanation here, if we could see that the wicked prosper, how is it that you can argue to me, that you could say to me that the righteous, the God-fearing, are not punished, right? If your theology retribution, God will strike down everyone who does wicked, and we'll see it, and it'll be nice, clean, and cut, and those who do good will prosper, and those who do evil will be punished in this life. That doesn't work. What I have seen is I've seen many examples that the evil prosper, live a great life, have all sorts of success without the fear of the Lord in their life, without calling upon the Almighty, by saying to the Lord God Almighty, get away from me, and not by prayer, but they just have succeeded by wickedness and they die happy. We're going to get into that a little bit as we get through this. But there's his thesis, if you would, just to jump back, really kind of see some of the things. Right, the wicked reach an old age. They live and grow mighty in power. They don't, opposed to what we just heard there, that their heads are in the clouds, but then they're going to be struck down by God. Their offspring, right? We kind of had that theme, right? Zophar was saying, the offspring are going to be begging, right? His children will beg for money, but it's actually his offspring are established in his presence, right? They're going to succeed. They're having a happy life. And they're descendant. You kind of even think multiple generations, that dynasty idea I kind of threw out there earlier. The house are safe from fear. No rod of God is upon them. Their bulls, right? They have success with their bulls and their cows. They're going to breed successfully, and they're going to have all sorts of calves that come and make them bigger and richer and more powerful as they go on. They'll send out their little boys, right? Their sons will be like a flock, right? They'll have a big family. They'll be blessed with many sons. Their children will dance, right? Not beg, right? Zophar kind of back there in verse 10 said the children will seek the favor of the poor. Right? The children will be begging from the poor. No, the children are going to dance to the tambourine and to the lyre. They're going to have a great time. The sound of the pipe, they will rejoice at the sound of the pipe. Right? Kind of the flute player. They will spend their days in prosperity and in peace. they will go down to Sheol, right? They will die a peaceful, happy death. There's not, there's enough examples of this, is what I say. And of course, then he gets into the things we've already kind of discussed here about get away from me, God. And I think this verse 16 that kind of finishes this section, behold, is not their prosperity is not their prosperity in their hand? The counsel of the wicked is far from me. I think that the implication there, it sounds like they're at success, but it's actually, I think it's to say, and this goes back to that sort of theme, God is the one who gives them prosperity, which is, right? This is the sort of like, we want good to be blessed and evil to be punished and everything to be nice and cut and dry, but it's even like, how is it that God in his wisdom is allowing them to succeed? And if God allows the evil to succeed, can we not say also that God will let the godly, the righteous, the God-fearing to fail? Which builds the point for Job's point, which is to say, I have not sinned against God in thought, word, and deed here. I have... though I may have sinned in some very small way, I've not done anything that deserves the level of punishment I am suffering right now, is his explanation. And I'm picking up at verse 17. How often is it that the lamp of the wicked is put out? And it is a question, that their calamity comes upon them, that God's disturbs pain and distributes pain in his anger. Chris, that's one for the bloopers. That they are like straw before the wind, like chaff in the storm carries away. You say God stores up their iniquity for their children. Let us pay it out to them, that they may know it. Let their own eyes see their destruction, and let them drink of the wrath of the Almighty. For what do they care for the house after them? What the number of their months is cut off? I kind of stop right there. So right, this kind of picks up on some things that were said to Job already, right? We've seen this a lot, right? They're kind of remembering something each other said, and they're bringing the same example back. And so he's really we kind of heard back in chapter 18, how often is the lamp of the wicked snuffed out? And Job really is kind of saying, how often is it not snuffed out, right? There's not an even Stephen, we know exactly cut and dry sort of explanation of why bad things happen. And even kind of that idea about chaff and straw being blown around by the wind. We've kind of heard that theme, I think, a couple of different times about, things being, dried up and blowing away, the possessions, the vines sort of same sort of thing. But, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen that easy and cut and dry like you think it's going to happen here. You say God stores up their iniquity for the children, but then what? So God's going to punish their children for their sins. But Job actually says, "Let their own eyes see the destruction." Let's not pay this. I mean, God is this what God does? Does He punish children lets their father die and go into the grave? And even kind of says, "For what do they care if the house after them, when the number of their months is cut off?" When they're dead, do they even care what happens in this world, right? Once they're down in the ground, so they're not going to see the punishment that should be theirs, is what Job is saying. Why would God punish the children for the sins of the father without punishing the father for his own sins? Continuing at verse 22, will any teach God knowledge? Of course, all the comforters in Job know this. No, nobody's going to teach God anything. But of course, he's kind of accusing them of saying that they have greater wisdom of what God wants there. Seeing that He judges those who are on high, one dies in full vigor. Right? This is again describing those who are the wicked. They die in full vigor. This is something different here. Being wholly at ease and secure, his pails full of milk, and his marrow of his bones moist. Another dies in bitterness of soul, never having tasted of prosperity. They lie down alike in the dust, and the worms cover them. I think of this, particularly verses 23, 4, 5, and 6. He's not even kind of dealing with the question of, is there the wicked and the righteous, the ungodly and the godly, but he's really just saying, in life, this is the way it goes. There are those for no good reason, no particular reason, who have great success. I like the idea, right? They're wholly at ease and secure. Their pails, right? Their pails are full of milk, right? They go out and milk the cow, and the cow gives them a full pail every time. And the marrow of their bones, right? Their bones are rich with marrow. But another one, what happens to the other one? He dies bitterness of soul. He never tastes of prosperity. He's never happy, right? He has no point in his life where he finds happiness. And and then, and I, like I said, this is verse 11 in the previous chapter. Zophar brings out the same idea. His bones are full of his youthful vigor, but he lies down in the dust. Really, he's kind of saying, look, everybody, those who are succeed, those who don't succeed, the wealthy, the poor, the righteous, the unrighteous, the tall and the short, everybody dies, right? Eventually, they all lie down alike in the dust, and the worms cover them. It doesn't matter who you are, that end is coming. I think we all understand that already. And then kind of to finish ourselves up here, right? Verse 27, behold, I know your thoughts and your schemes to wrong me. For you say, where is the house of the prince? Where is the tent in which the wicked live? Have you not asked those who... And so that's kind of the end of their statement, which is kind of to say, look, okay, just like he said at the very beginning, right? I will speak, and then you could go on mocking me at the very beginning. I think in verse 3 here of the reading. So we kind of begin with that. We're going to end with that same sort of theme there as he continues to talk to him, right? I know your schemes. You're gonna rip me to shreds after this, and you're going to say, where is the house of the prince, right? Which kind of, like we said, even when Zophar is kind of speaking in the abstract about, the wicked, right? There's kind of an implication he's talking about Job. This is a backhanded insult that he's giving him. He may not be saying, you, Job, but he's saying the wicked are suffering and you're suffering, therefore you are the wicked that I'm describing. The heads of the cloud, right? So even describes himself as, where is the house of the prince? Where is the tent in which the wicked live? All these things taken away from him. But now Job is going to ask this question. Have you not asked those who travel the road? In other words, have you not talked to those who have seen the ways of the world, who travel, from country to country and have seen what happens around the known world of Job's world? And do you not accept their testimony that the evil man is spared in the day of calamity, that he is rescued in the day of wrath? Who declares his way to his face? Who repays him for what he has done? When he is carried, again, basically saying, that's quite clear. Have you seen everybody who travels, everybody who knows the world, who knows the way of the world? They have seen the wicked rescued. They have seen them be spared from calamity, and nobody goes to their face and insults them and tells them off. Repays him for what he has done. Verse 33 to kind of finish ourselves up here. When he is carried to the grave, watch is kept over his tomb. The clods of the valley are sweet to him. All mankind follows after him, and those who go before him are innumerable. How then will you comfort me with empty nothings? There is nothing left for your answers but falsehood, right? Even though, right, first of all, we kind of understand everyone's going to be covered by the worms. Their bones are going to go down to the ground. We're all going to die. But even with the wicked, right? You said before, people, Zophar kind of said, where is it? Back here. Verse 7, he says, when they perish, will say, where is he? But actually, what will happen? He will get a wonderful funeral, and people will watch his tomb, and I kind of watch it like, guarding it, but they'll come and they'll scrub the tombstones, and they'll clean up they'll weed it, and they'll make sure everything looks nice at his grave. The clods of the valley are sweet to him, right? The dirt that is on his body in his grave will be sweet. In other words, he'll have a peaceful death, is what they're kind of what Job's implying there. And all mankind is going to follow after him, and all those who go before him are innumerable. You can't everybody dies. Isn't that kind of what we said about 5 times so far? How then will you comfort your comfort again, right? the problem is you're supposed to be comforting me, and you're full of falsehoods, and you're full of hurt, and you're full of hateful words to me here, and nothing left in your answer but falsehood. So we'll kind of end right there. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord look upon you with favor and give you peace. Amen.